what is the motive? It's really interesting. Many people that we're saying about these things are not happening in the world and the control of, these elite guys. It's a question that I could completely understand. What is the motive, really, for your opinion? People asking, what is the motive for people like that to do it? So it's money, it's power, but what is it? Is there something behind that, or because when you're thinking about those things we are speaking here, and you try to understand the motive, so it's a question I hear a lot, and would love to hear your view about it.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to address that, and frankly, I believe that Israel has an extraordinarily highly leveraged role to play. That's one of the reasons I was excited to have our film show at the Spirit Film Festival, and also to be able to talk to you, because as I've laid out, the Rothschilds have played a key part in this, along with the Rockefellers and the Morgans and the Schiffs and on and on. But I try to make it clear to the people that it has nothing to do with the fact that they're Jewish. It has nothing to do with Israel, even though the Rothschilds were a key part of creating Israel. This is not about the Jewish people. It's not about the Israeli people. And I think as people in Israel particularly wake up to how you have been duped, just like the rest of us have been duped by some of your most prominent families, I think you have the opportunity to say no to that, to say that we're ending that legacy in the same way that we're doing that in our country with the Rockefellers and some of the families over here. But in terms of the motive, yes, of course, there's a huge financial motive. And if you follow the money, it goes back to the same families every time. They've literally planned and then taken over almost every sector of human endeavor. But if people think that it's just about the money, they get further deceived, because these are people who are not only some of the very richest people on the planet and have all the money they could ever spend for 7 generations to come. They're the ones in charge of printing money and taking people's money as taxes. So they motivate a lot of their minions with money and with threats, but I believe their real motive is control. I think that fundamentally we're either living from a state of fear or we're living from a state of love. And I think that these would-be controllers are operating almost entirely from a state of fear. And I think that many of them have been trained. I've studied the biographies of a lot of the so-called leaders in these secret societies and just the perpetrators of such destruction and violence across the planet and economic destruction. And they, again and again, you go back to their childhoods, and very often they were physically abused, or they were sexually abused. They were at least emotionally and psychologically abused, and trained into a worldview. Or I can just picture some authoritative father figure with his son, and I could name names on this, but it's not worth going there. People can imagine who these people are, where the father is intensely yelling at the kid, saying, "Son, there's only 2 types of people in the world. There's those who are controlled and those who are in control. Which one do you want to be?" And the kid knows he's going to get beaten if he says the wrong answer, and he's not going to, be welcomed into the family. So from a young age, they get trained into, okay, it's your job to rule the world, but you have to do it secretively because people don't really want this. So we have to lie to them. We have to threaten them. We may have to kill a lot of them on our way, but we're going towards something really good. And that good is that we, because we're the elite, we're the most enlightened ones, we're the richest. So obviously we're the most successful, we're the best people. We should be ruling the planet Earth. And even if it takes killing a lot of people in the meantime, we're doing a good thing. And I tell you, I've talked to refugees from behind these scenes, and these are very real scenarios that I'm describing. And once they get into the secret societies, then it's literally they have to participate under the threat of death. Or they you know, they could be gone, not only their reputation, their careers, but they and their families and so forth are at risk. So I think that we have to learn as a species, if you've got something like, from my research, about 3% of the global human population is sociopathic or psychopathic. And if you create a structure of governance that not only allows a few people to rule the masses, but supports the most corrupt, unhappy, violent people, that it supports them in rising up through those hierarchies, through lying and cheating and stealing, then you're going to end up with psychopaths ruling the global institutions. And guess what, folks? Look around. This is exactly where we are. You know, when you hear this Klaus Schwab describe his vision for the global reset, they're not even pretending anymore. This is full on. They'll still put it in fancy words, but it's absolutely chilling. And so I think their motive is fundamentally that they're so out of touch with love and with intimacy and the life force that they live entirely for adrenaline, and they live for keeping their fear at bay. And the only way that they can think they can do that is by controlling themselves, controlling the people around them, ultimately controlling everybody on the planet. And it sounds like, you know, some poorly written James Bond movie or something like that. But it's not that this is based on a movie. It's that the movies are actually based on this. Okay. And so if we can understand that we are empowering with our political systems, with having a state, an authoritarian state at all, that we are empowering these people who are taking away our prosperity, our happiness, and our security, and now our health. If we're empowering those, then we're going down exactly the wrong path. So the greatest threat is not them. It's our belief in the fact that they should have authority. When we wake up to that, and that's the main thing they don't want, when we wake up to that, then as a species, we can arise. And we are at least 97% or more of the people on the planet who actually want to be healthy. We want to be free. We want to support our neighbors. We want to live on a beautiful, thriving planet. And I do think that this is the turning point. I think it's going to be messy, you know, over the next months, maybe years. But I do believe that the turning point that I'm hoping to see in my lifetime is actually coming very soon as all of this gets exposed. I was thrilled in reading on your website where you talk about that this is a huge calling at the moment to stop the divide and conquer mentality that has been controlling our planet for years and come together as one. It's so right on. And my question for your group would be, come together as one around what? Mm-hmm. What is it that we can actually, yes, we can realize that cosmically we are one in the field, but to actually come into alignment, what we suggest in Thrive 2 is that the one thing that we found that everybody on the planet that we've ever met agrees to is they don't want to be violated against their will. Mm-hmm. And so, wait a minute, maybe if everybody agrees to it, maybe that's what we've been missing as the basis for a universal morality. And whenever I say that to people, they say, well, of course, that's the golden rule. That's just being kind, sure. But no, we need to go deeper and realize that with our authorization of governments, we actually sell out the non-aggression principle by giving a few people the right to take other people's money at their will, send their kids off to fight in imperialistic wars or whatever. And that, therefore, every single government is by definition in violation of the non-aggression principle. And that's why every single government is corrupt, because by definition, it starts with corruption. And so this is a huge thing for people. It's the most challenging part in Thrive 2 for people. It's the most obvious thing in the world, but it's the most challenging because we've been so indoctrinated for centuries, for millennia, that somebody has to be ruling us. well, what if nobody were ruling us? So we asked the question in Thrive 2, who do you think should rule? Should it be one person? Should it be a small group? Should it be the majority? Or should we actually only rule ourselves as long as we're not violating anyone else? And almost everyone that I talk with says, well, it's the latter. We should go with that. And that's why we made Thrive 2, is to encourage people to take this alignment with the field, not only into the technological level, into the consciousness development level, but into the interpersonal level, because that's where we need to figure this one out. Because we're in an era where one victimized person can take out a city with a dirty bomb in a suitcase. So as a species, we actually need to figure this one out now. And when you talk on your website about becoming more conscious, I would also encourage people to go, okay, the meditation is great. You feel your consciousness becoming one with the unified field and so forth. But also, as you're becoming more conscious, what are you becoming more conscious of? And I want to suggest that for people, if you haven't seen Thrive 2, we make some very strong suggestions as to what we think humanity needs to become more conscious of, starting with the non-aggression principle, in order to actually survive and then to ultimately thrive on a healthy planet.